And if you're a veteran Shopify seller listening to this before you hang up on us or change to the next podcast, I would just say that these success steps, these 5, steps in the path, if you find yourself plateaued, stuck, stymied, frustrated, or not growing or feeling like there's something wrong with your Shopify business, listen to this episode.
You don't have to be pigeonholed into one that you find to work, right? You have the ability to layer in other business models to your business as a whole and really round everything out. Basically just the front end sales channel.
He developed a strategy because in his own business he wasn't profitable with the strategy.
Well, it's clearly working wonders for our clients, and it's crazy to me how many agencies don't know about this at all.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The eCommerce Leader. I'm here with my co-host, Kyle Hamer. How are you, man?
I'm doing good.
All right, cool. You ready to jump into another fun topic?
Yeah, I am. Let's do this.
Okay, today we've got a really good one. And this is coming out of work I'm doing on the second edition of our Shopify Power Book. And one of the things that is not in the book, and it's not in my prior book before that, eCommerce Power, and that is a success path. And I was reading some of the reviews. You know how as an author, you read the reviews?
Right.
All of us do this, right? For any product we sell. And some of my negative reviews, like my 1-star reviews, it's painful to read them, but you've got to look at them. And some of the reviews were like, this is not like, there's no path, there's no clear step by step, there's not a logical do this kind of step. In essence, was the feedback on some of the reviews. And I thought, you know what, it's actually true. I don't have a clear success path written out. And so that's going into the book. But we thought, man, this makes a great topic for a podcast as well. So that's what we're going to cover in today's conversation is 5 steps to your Shopify success path.
Yep.
And I think we both will have a lot to say about it. So there you go. You like that topic? All right.
I like it a lot. And really this success path is based on our working with a lot of Shopify store owners at this point, right? And sort of identifying where they're at in their journey. And so that's really the genesis of where this all came from, is just based on our conversations and looking at people's businesses and stores. We kind of be able to bucket them a little bit and provide some guidance. And what I'm excited about the most is people lean into this, is it sort of lets them know where they're at compared to maybe other Shopify stores that are out there in the marketplace. And then it gives them sort of some goals to get to, and really where to be orienting their thinking around strategically. And that's really important, because sometimes you get lost in the weeds and you kind of lose sight on what the strategic next goal is. And so I think this success path will really help people do that.
And if you're a veteran Shopify seller listening to this before you hang up on us or change to the next podcast, I would just say that these success steps, these 5, steps in the path, if you find yourself plateaued, stuck, stymied, frustrated, or not growing or feeling like there's something wrong with your Shopify business, listen to this episode, because these 5 steps in the growth path, the success path, are basically a prescription for how to get your business to scale. And if you're frustrated with where you're at right now, even though if you're not a newbie just starting out, there might be some real nuggets in this conversation for you. So hang in there with us. Yeah. All right.
Well, let's jump in.
You ready?
Yeah. I am. So let's get started. So there's 5 different stages,
yeah.
Right? 5 different stages on the success path. Let's start with stage 1.
Yep.
So Jason, take it away. What is stage 1 of the success path?
Yep. So stage 1, I labeled as organizing the 3 foundational aspects of your business. The 3 foundational aspects, and they are, number 1, your niche. So what, part of the internet galaxy are you going to be selling into? And getting clarity on that is a big, big deal. So that's a big thing. I'll mention these real fast and then we can talk about each one. The second thing is choosing the right business model. So, you can have a niche that you focus on, but you can approach it from 15 different business models, literally. And understanding the method you'll use to make money is super, super critical. The third foundational aspect of a business is finding that right product, that great product that you're going to bring to market. It'll be basically your anchor product that you'll launch your business around. So those are the three things, very straightforward, but super, super critical to the formation of a new Shopify site. What do you think?
I think it's really, really important. I heard a marketer, and I can't remember who said this, but they had said there are three types of audiences that you have. There's the audience you think you're selling to. There's the audience you're really selling to. And there's the audience you wish you were selling to, right? Yeah. And it's usually somewhere in between those three where reality lands for you.
Yeah.
But you can't assume that the people that you are thinking you're marketing to are the people that you're actually buying your product and getting data and getting information and actually talking to your customers and seeing what they're actually doing with their credit cards in your store and tracking that action helps you identify your right niche and clarify that.
It's so true, man. When we started online in eBay and we started to get some sales success, it was small, it was $1,000 a month at first for for 18 months or more. But when we started seeing people buy and then we kind of figured things out and we started to grow a bit, I remember those months where we were like, who are these people?
Right.
Where are they coming from? And, what are they into? We didn't even really know the niche we were selling into. We just kind of lucked our way into a topic. And you go through this evolution in your mind of understanding, okay, I understand these people. I get what they're all about, what they want, what they don't want, what they'll get mad at, what they'll be happy about. You kind of have to learn. And if you're starting from scratch, you have to take your best guess.
Yep.
And you have to identify a niche of people who are eager, to buy your product. And I would just say one pro tip for this, selecting the right niche is I would forget about anything that you're personally infatuated with, care about, or really love or whatever at the moment. And I would make sure you really, really ensure that there's a hungry market. Someone, once said it's much easier to sell aspirin than to sell vitamins. And the difference there is an aspirin is a solution to a big problem. Somebody has a problem, you're selling the solution. A vitamin is an aspirational, I want to be healthier type sell, a lot harder. Yeah. And so, you want to find an audience that really, really needs a new whatever, fill in the term there, and make sure that they're really ready to spend money on it. And there are a lot of niches where you're like, well, this seems like a good topic, but then it's like, well, people only buy that stuff on Amazon nowadays. Or, this seems like a good topic, but these people are all freebie seekers. They don't want to spend any money at all. They want to make it themselves at home. All they need to, is the base materials or whatever. So there's a lot of niches like that sort of hold fool's gold in a way. And hitting pay dirt is a little bit hard. So choosing the right niche is a big deal. And then the business model, of course, is a big deal. So we could both speak a lot to this. We have clients that we work with who run all different kinds of business models. And there are over 17 business models, I think, are listed in my eCommerce Power Book. And they, it runs the gamut from private label products to being an affiliate for other people's products, drop shipping, and digital goods, and manufacturing your own items, and on and on and on. What are your thoughts on business model?
I think it's super important, and you have to find one in which you can sort of prove that you're talking with the right niche and that you have basically product market fit, essentially. And then, here's the fun thing about, I think, business models is you don't have to be pigeonholed into one that you find to work, right? You have the ability to layer in other business models to your business as a whole and really round everything out in a nice way, which is really cool. You talked a lot about adding digital products to your physical product business. We've looked at seeing clients who've added physical products to their digital product business, right? Where you start doesn't necessarily mean that's where you end. Yeah. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah. That's totally right. It is adaptable and changeable. I will say, however, though, going into a business model naively is a recipe for frustration.
100%.
And so, there are, of course, many, many people on YouTube and Instagram Reels and such that are selling, not get rich quick, you know what I mean? But they're selling opportunity, and they'll present a business model as so easy and just the next simple thing. And here's how you make $100 a day. And when you add that up, that's a great side hustle. It's $36,000 a year, whatever. And, they'll present these business models, and the worst of them are like, here's how you make, $500 a day. And if they start with open Canva, I'm going to lose it. And I see another one of those, it's like open Canva, make this, sell a copy of it for, whatever.
Yeah.
And, but the business model that underpins e-commerce work, each one of them has merits and
For sure.
but definitely there are pros and cons to every business model. And so that's maybe even the thing to Google or ChatGPT, the question, what's the pros and cons of drop shipping? What's the pros and cons of, private label, manufacturing and product selling? What's the pros and cons of, being an affiliate marketer? On and on and on, and really start to understand the downsides and the requirements for success. So anyway, so this is stage one of the the success path. So we probably need to keep moving along.
Yeah,
we could do a deep dive on each one of these topics,
and we definitely should. I mean, I can't give you a get rich quick plan, but I can sure get you a get poor fast plan, and that is to not do your research on your business model and just jump around a lot. Right? If you just never pursue it all the way and you're just kind of skimming at the surface and testing things. I mean, it's good to test things, but if you're not focused and really take stuff through to where it needs to go, then, you're going to waste a bunch of money. So you just do your research, talk to trusted advisors, and really sort of move through that process with some thought.
Yeah, totally right. And I would say the time frame for the first stage here is 1 to 3 months, and the budget's maybe $500. You don't need to spend much money at all. It's really an exercise in research.
For sure.
So there you have it. So once you've exited that stage, you'll exit it because you have a great niche that you're excited about, that you've kind of, identified a success opportunity. You'll have a business model that you're excited about, you understand, and you'll have a product that you say, I'm ready to go to market with this. So that's the 3 milestones, of stepping through that. Okay, so that's the stage 1. The stage 2 is branding and product USPs, unique selling propositions. So the brand piece of this is obviously super duper vital. The branding work comes after you created the focus on the right niche and the focus on the right product and the right business model, because you'll want your brand to represent those things. If you're selling to farmers, you want to have a brand that makes sense for farmers. If you're selling to cat lovers, you want a brand that makes sense to cat lovers. So you get the idea there. That's the simple part of this. The unique selling proposition is the second part. And so what's your thought on either the brand or the USP?
Well, I mean, a brand is becoming more and more important in today's selling environment, because products are commoditized, right? Products definitely become something that, you can go on Amazon and you can pick up. Maybe a manufacturer from China is selling the exact same product for you for 50% cheaper than you on Amazon. So you can't necessarily win at the product game unless you're adding something of value to it, right? And that's where the USP comes in, and that's where the branding comes in, because there's a strong brand will afford you some pricing power and a premium. If you don't have a strong brand, then all you're doing is competing on price without any sort of USP component to that product. And it's just a straight product to product comparison. You're going to lose on price. So brand is one way that you build that moat of defense.
Yep.
And then the other thing is your USP. Now, your brand might be the core component of your unique selling proposition. Maybe you offer something really unique about your brand, or how you source a product, or your mission and how you're showing up. And that could be very, very cool. And that's probably the easiest path to take in terms of creating sort of that defensive moat, is your branding. But you can definitely look at other things as well, like some sort of enhancement to a product that's missing. Jason, you talked about looking at your negative reviews on the book. look at negative reviews on your competitors' products. Is there any way for you to iterate a new version of it that's helped solve for that? Those are some basic USPs that you could look to implement.
Yeah, the unique selling proposition I always go to in my mind when I'm thinking about this topic is Mike Brown from Death Wish Coffee. So I met him in 2013. We interviewed him and have the Q&A transcript in the eCommerce Power Book. And if you're not familiar with Death Wish Coffee, his story is pretty cool. He was a barista at a small coffee shop or cart that he owned. And his customers every morning would always say, "Give me the strongest stuff you've got." And then he was just thinking about that. What's the strongest coffee? And oddly enough, it's amazing. In the coffee space, there was no one who had claimed the ownership of the strongest coffee. And so he knew enough about, the process to buy the right beans and to have them, prepared the right way. And he came up with his own strongest coffee. And the coolest part about his story, is he came up with the name Death Wish from the Charles Bronson movie. And then he came up with his coffee, and he knew it was strong. And then I think it was Huffington Post or another online article publication actually did a test where they got all the coffees and tested them by milligrams of caffeine or whatever per cup, and declared him they documented that Death Wish was the strongest of all the coffees, all the big ones, Pete's and Starbucks and Dutch Bros and stuff like that. And it was the single smartest positioning I think I've ever heard of. And I mean, it's his brand is just kind of blown up. It's everywhere now because in a market that was super saturated and super competitive, he somehow saw a position that no one else had claimed, and therefore it was available. And that's what you got to be looking for in your unique selling proposition strategy, is what's not being taken by anybody else that is something the customers want, right, and that I can say my coffee or my whatever gives them. And that's the work of the USP. And it's hard work.
It is.
But he did it, and others have done it in similar amazing ways, and you can too. You just got to think it through and really come up with something that's spectacular,
Yeah, no, it's and this work is built on the back of that stage one work. Like, you need to know your audience, you need to know what, their pain points, and really understand your niche. And then you're sort of building that brand off of that work. You're building the USPs. You're basically trying to give them what they want, essentially. And that's what's important.
Exactly right. Okay, so that's stage 2, and that might take 2 to 4 months. It might take you, $1,000 to $5,000 to have your brand fully dialed in. You got to buy a domain name. You've got to make sure it's available, obviously, everywhere. You've got to have a beautiful logo made. 99 Designs is great for that. That kind of stuff. Trademark process begins, all of that. And so that's stage 2. Okay, so stage 3 is marketing and growth. Now, this is where you're going to launch your website and your product out to the world. You're going to have it, your branded stuff ready to rock and roll. And you're going to do not only product launch, you're going to be doing a business launch to put it out there. So what are your thoughts on that?
What's interesting about this is that most of the time when we see or we talk with clients that are fairly new in the process, they actually start at stage 3 and they've skipped a lot of stage 1 and 2 and go straight to stage 3.
Totally.
And so you're like, whoa, wait. Who's your audience? What's your product strategy? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. What's your wait. Like, we could go on and on. What's your domain name? Oh, I couldn't get the one I wanted, so I got one word different or one letter different. Oh no.
Yeah, or .net. So you see a lot of that stuff start to take place because, honestly, you're trying to make money. And so stage 3 is the most, you feel like you've sort of done all this pre-work, and stage 3, you're finally getting to the finish line and you're going to go. Yeah. But really all of the stuff in stage 1 and stage 2 are setting you up to have a successful stage 3. And you end up going back and repeating a lot of that work if you haven't done it already. So that's really the biggest thing that I've noticed at people at stage 3 is that they sort of have a slow launch or a no launch, if you would, on stage 3, because their stage one and stage 1 and 2 work isn't quite fully cooked.
Yeah. The other thing about, this marketing and growth stage is a lot of people don't know how to do a launch. And so, Jeff Walker is the best guru teacher for that product launch formula. So if you're looking for advice on how to do a launch of a new product or your whole entire business, I highly recommend you go through his annual workshop. I think it's in September. I might be wrong, but I think it's September usually, where he does a 3-day free online training. And then of course, if you like it, you can join his whole program, which is a couple $1,000s. We were featured by Jeff. We went through that process in 2010, I think it was, so a long time ago now. And we were featured by him, I think in 2014 or 15 as one of the case studies. It really was foundational for us to understand what are all the elements that go into a successful launch. And it's really a systematic approach to make sure that you've done all of the right preparatory activities and you've thought about the right ways in which you can get the word out and make maximum impact on the initial launch of your brand and your product. And so I would really encourage people to look into that. The time frame for this is 3 to 6 months. The budget's $2,000 to $10,000. Of course, depending on the inventory requirements, it might be more. But we always encourage people to test small and make sure that you've got a viable viable product before you scale up. So I encourage even people to test on Etsy or Amazon or eBay. Test on a marketplace. Test on, it doesn't matter. Test on Craigslist or OfferUp or wherever before you launch a Shopify site. The main thing you want to do is prove that you've got a product that is desirable and that you've got a brand and a unique selling proposition behind it that is going to attract people to say yes. And so you don't even have to be on Shopify, until you've kind of gotten to that step. Now, if you're really confident and you're like, no, I want a website straight away, great. Then, have that ready to go. And then you're going to be talking about driving unique traffic to your site through Facebook ads or Google ads, that kind of thing, social media, on and on. So, yeah.
A couple other thoughts on this particular stage. One is you have to be willing and able to pivot pretty quick when you're launching stuff and testing things and seeing what's going to work and leaning into the stuff that is. And second, you need to really understand your numbers before you move on to the scaling stage of the growth, right? You need to understand your product metrics, your all of the stuff that leads to your margin, how you can sort of lean into that. And then, and really the third thing is just be willing to go quick with some of this stuff, right? Because you have to do it. If you wait too long and you go too slow to roll it out, you're just going to waste a lot of time. So pivot quickly, understand your numbers, and that will let you kind of get to scale at a much faster pace.
Yeah. In terms of the marketing itself, I would say the most obvious thing that you want to do is have some form of broadcast media that you focus on. Maybe it's Instagram Reels, maybe it's YouTube. Like, you want to have some version of direct marketing to prospects. And then email marketing is huge. So the first thing you should do is be trying to collect email addresses. Those two things by themselves are super important. And then layering on advertising on top of that will get you off to the good start. So yeah,
for sure.
Okay. All right. Scaling operations is stage 4, scaling operations. So in this stage, you're really talking about how to get from an initial, thousands of dollars of sales or tens of thousands of dollars of sales to hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales or millions of dollars of sales. And, sometimes this can go fast. Yeah. Sometimes it can go slow. It just depends on what you've got to bring to the party and the audience that you're working with. But scaling up is a huge, critical piece. You will find your weaknesses. You will find the weaknesses in your business model. You will find the weaknesses in your niche. You will find the weaknesses in your product. All of those things start to materialize. It's like cracks, in the system will start to show as you start to scale up. And but it's a vital part of it.
Yeah, I think for me at this stage, what you really have to nail is really built upon the first 3 stages, right? And it all sort of culminates into an offer that you can make to your audience, which is your product to the right audience at the right pricing, and really sort of speak immediately to their desire and their felt need, and have the math, you know your numbers, that you can actually push a lot of advertising behind it and have it really grow. I think when you can hit those things, you're ready for stage 4, and you're ready to kind of push that forward. So it really comes down to your offer and how well that's converting. And that's to me is like green light, man. If you can see that those numbers make sense, then it's time to really lean into it.
So the operational part of all that's sort of a huge part of this as well, which is like, do you have a big enough facility? Do you have a big enough team? Are you legally incorporated properly in the right place, in the right way? You know, do you have a CPA that's working with you that advises you on how to take owner's draws and, you know, set up, your own personal, details related to the business? All of that stuff has to be sorted out as you start to scale up. And it can be really challenging. And if if you struggle with hiring people, for example, whatever your weakness is will start to materialize. You're like, oh man, I just realized I want to scale up, but I'm a horrible boss, or, I want to scale up, but, I don't want to do QuickBooks. I hate doing any, accounting work, or, I want to scale up, but I can't fiddle around with the back end of my Shopify site for one more second, or, I'm going to poke my eyes out. These are the things that you have to realize. Okay, this is part of scaling, is solving these harder and harder challenges.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is about, like I said, offer, clarity, and then team, and the operational things that you mentioned, right? You have all those things lined up that allows you to do it. That's what's going to make or break it. Because what you don't want to have happen is, and to some extent, if you're scaling, things are going to break. Like, that's just going to be the nature of it. But then the other thing that is you start to be able to do is you want to make sure your back end, and what I mean by back end is you have an initial offer, right, to acquire a new customer, and you nailed it with your first product in stage 3. You've got clarity, people are buying it. Well, how do you maximize the lifetime value of that customer? What's the next thing? How do you layer in other things? You want to have a nice back end system when you're scaling, so that you can go out and acquire a customer at, break even if you need to, and then really maximize their lifetime value, because that's really how you're going to build real business equity on the long run. So I think that's another important component of stage 4.
Totally
nailing inside.
Stage 5 is optimizing for profit maximization. You want to make maximum profit on minimum sales. And this is a really super critical stage. So there are a lot of veteran e-commerce operators who have been selling for a good numbers of years and have a reasonably good business and a reasonably large top line sales. Maybe they're making, $500,000 or $750,000, top line sales, or whatever it is. But they say to themselves, I'm not making any money. This is not profitable. I can't, I'm like, what's the problem here? And so this step is really super critical, optimizing for profit. And this stage will really allow you to go from, grinding and, scrimping and saving, to saying, hey, I got a money making machine here. And a lot of e-commerce operators don't ever get past this hurdle. A lot of e-commerce operators can get the sales done. They can get the niche thing. They can get the product thing. They can get sales. They can figure out advertising, but they can never get past this real optimized for profit, plateau or stage. And this stage is the 5th stage. It's a final stage in our little success path, because at this stage, you've got a really, really valuable asset as your business that you can either sell, or you have the margin to bring other people in to run it. And it is really what I would call the culmination of a mature e-commerce business, where it's not speculative. It's not like shoestring budget pulled together. Is it going to work? Maybe yes, maybe no. Is it work if I show up? If it stop working if I don't show up? All those types of weaknesses. You're past that at stage 5. At stage 5, you've got optimized, organized business that is a predictable profit that you can say, I know what this business will do for me, and it's going to keep churning out the profit if I keep doing the right, things in the right ways. And so that's the final stage in my mind. So what's your thought on this one?
This is a grown-up business. This is the business when it's sort of graduated from high school, going to college, living on its own, and is out of the helm, and so I think this is the ideal for a lot of people when they get started, right? It's a business that will kick off cash flow. It's a business that you're optimizing for either your own personal cash flow coming into you, or you're optimizing it to sell it, and you're ready to sort of go on to the next venture. It kind of depends on who you are as an entrepreneur. Some people really thrive in sort of those early stages. And the stage it takes to get you from 0 to 1 million, it takes a different skill set to get to 1 million to 2 million or 10 million plus, right? Totally different skill set as a business leader, as an entrepreneur, and what you're gifted in. So part of this is also understanding where you find the most enjoyment, what you like, where you thrive and excel at. And so then punch your exit at the appropriate spot. Don't try to hang on to something where this isn't what is for you long term, what you like to do. And so this is really optimizing for that and really understanding your long-term goals.
It's really important that you mentioned that, long-term goals, because, we worked with clients before that have sold their e-commerce business. And, in one story comes to my mind where, the person had owned the business for 29 years, and it was that's whole life, whole career. And it was an okay business. But then, the owner wanted to retire, wanted to sell, and then realized there was a whole bunch of stuff that had to be done to be able to sell it. And doing that work tripled sales.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't know how much the margin of a profit increased, but it was a lot. And then had a happy sale, a successful, 7-figure plus sale of the business. The interesting part is, if that person hadn't had that fuse lit of, I'm going to sell this business, I've got to get it organized. It was like it lit a fire.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, all of us need that fire lit underneath us that are running e-commerce operations. Like, no, wait, what if I have to sell this in 2 years? How good could I make it?
Yep.
How hands-off could I make it? How profitable could I make it? All of those questions. And if you're just saying, well, I don't know what I'm going to do in the future, you can kind of get in I'm not saying passive, but, you can get in a mental state where you're kind of like, it's okay, it's not great. 5 years ago it was better, but blah, blah, blah. And you kind of lose the eye of the tiger, to quote the Rocky 3 song and, idea. You got to get back to where you're like, no, man, I got to get this thing in peak performance.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to get as a stage 5 operator on your success path. You want to have your business in peak performance.
Yeah.
So it benefits you the most, whether you run it long term and keep it, or whether you sell it. Peak performance is the goal.
And here's the downside if you don't. One, like Jason mentioned, you're at least leaving money on the table. But 2, markets change. And you might miss your best opportunity to sell this business. And now you're looking back 5 years after the fact, or 3 years after the fact, you should have sold it. And you're like, oh, I've left so much money on the table because I missed my peak. I missed my opportunity.
Yep, totally. And that happens where there's seasons of opportunity for exit and seasons of opportunity in businesses. And you're totally right. Over the long term, you can see it. And so you've got to work through these issues and really have an urgency and an intensity to go through these success steps. Well, hopefully this has been a good conversation. Kyle, any kind of final commentary before we wrap up?
My only commentary is, if you're still not sure which stage you're at, book a call with us. We're happy to sort of go through this in detail, look at your business, give you some feedback and advice. You get a 30-minute free consult with us. We're happy to we love looking at businesses, looking at Shopify stores, providing some feedback and some helpful insight whenever possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. That's for sure what we love doing. We work with clients every day on their Shopify businesses, and it's an honor to be able to collaborate with people. We love this stuff. We love working not only in our own e-commerce businesses, but helping other people succeed and win in their businesses. So if you're looking for a coach or even a done-for-you partner, we offer done-for-you services in terms of site building, Shopify site management, email marketing management, paid advertising management. We're here to help, and we're excited to talk to you if that's of interest. So hit us up on OmniRocket.com, book the free call, as Kyle mentioned, through our appointment tool, and we're happy to talk to you about your business, regardless of whether it turns out that we're a good fit for you or you're a good fit for us. It's cool either way. We'll have a great conversation and talk to you about how you can implement the success path. So thank you, man, as always, for a great conversation. And thank you all for listening to the show as well. If you like it, give us a like, love, comment, share, or review wherever you're listening from. Forward it around to your friends. Share a link in your private Facebook group with all of your Shopify buddies, and let people know that they can get insights and information at the E-commerce Leader podcast. So I'll end it there. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.